Hi, I'm Lisette Jacobson, host of the Black, Brown, and Bilingue podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to another great episode of My EdTech Life. I am so excited to be here with you all today on this wonderful Tuesday. Thank you for making My EdTech Life part of your day. And as always, my friends, thank you so much for all the likes, shares, and follows. Thank you so much for the retweets. And of course, just being part of our community. As you know, our mission is to connect educators and creators one show at a time. And I am excited about today's show because today our guest is William Gruby, who I just pretty recently met, actually, as in I think it was this last week that I ended up meeting him. He just tweeted me out, tagged me on a post, got to talking with them, and now all of a sudden he is on the show because today we are talking about navigating the AI driven classroom. And as you can tell, I accidentally misspelled classroom here, but we'll get that taken care of anyway. But William, how are you this evening?
I'm great, doing good. Thanks for asking.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. Big hello to Raquel. Thank you for joining us. Nasim, also, thank you so much for joining us here this evening through LinkedIn. And for all of our friends that are joining us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, please make sure that you type in your questions. Today's conversation is going to be a great one. I am excited and looking forward to talking to William about, of course, AI and in the classroom since December, with Chat GPT being released and all of that, so many people out there in the education space are harnessing the power of AI, but there are also many of us that kind of just want to reconcile, obviously, the positive, but then there's also that other side that not many people talk about. But I'm hoping that William today also will be sharing his expertise as he is doing some great things with many school districts in his area. But before we get into the amazing work that William's doing, William, if you can just give us a brief introduction and what your context is in the AI and education space.
Yeah, so my name's William Gruby. So back about in January, I started reaching out to schools wanting to more raise awareness that these AI tools exist and how they're affecting how students learn and how they're going to have to affect how teachers teach. So I actually started presenting to staff at schools all across the Midwestern area, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. I'm just kind of explaining to them, how AI is impacting education. And then eventually, I figured out, more how to help them and constructed a training or a program that kind of helps them walk them through, how to create more AI resistant content and eventually, ethically integrating AI into the classroom and kind of helping them through kind of a stepping stone. I'm a computer science master's student at North Dakota State University. So kind of bridging the gap between education and AI.
Man, William, I absolutely love that. And so, what I want to do, thank you so much for that introduction, just for all our audience members that are joining us and are getting to know who you are, because I guarantee you that after today, many more people are going to get to know not only who you are, but the work that you're doing. And I'm really excited about that too, as well, because we definitely need some voices like yours, but also some expertise and experience like yours that you get to see things from different lenses, from different grade levels, different areas. So I'm really excited to pick your brain about that too, as well. But before we get into that too, as you know, anybody that is a guest on My EdTech Live is somebody that I see is doing some great things in the education space, such as you just described. And as we all know, for myself, it's like you're almost like a superhero kind of like person. And we all know that every superhero has an origin story. So I know that you mentioned you're a computer science master's student, but I want to kind of go back a little bit as far back as you'd like to take us as far as your education journey. Was computer science something that you knew you wanted to do from a very young age? And if so, how did that interest come about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a small town in the southwestern corner of Minnesota. I went to the same high school, graduated with about 50 kids. As a young kid, I always was interested in the computer science field. But then as I kind of grew up, I was a senior in high school, and I actually first decided to go to college for nursing, which is not in the computer science realm at all. But all it took was one semester of biology, and I came to North Dakota State University for computer science. It's always been what I was really good at and really enjoy. Um, and then eventually they have this master's program. It's an accelerated master's program called the 4+1 program, where you can start taking master classes in your junior and senior year, then to just get your master's faster. So that's the program I'm in right now. And actually last summer I had an internship at a service co-op that helps service schools all across Minnesota, and I worked in their cybersecurity department. So I really got to see, where schools are at with technology, where they need help, and just like really understand how teachers needed to be helped to really actually help them implement the ideas that we'll talk about today. And just understand that teachers put on so many different hats during the day and have so many different things that they're doing, not only in school, but in their life. So it's really hard for them to actually, learn all these new technologies that are coming out that these kids are using every day.
Absolutely. So that's very interesting, going into nursing, but then switching over to computer science. So I want to ask though, computer science, was that something that you were already really good at, even though the intention was nursing, but was
Yeah.
computers, maybe gaming, programming at a young age, was
Yeah.
that something that you were already doing?
Yeah. So in high school, I was always more of a math kid. I really enjoyed math, and then started to kind of get into the computer science side of things, playing around with some code in high school. I'm never really diving really deep into it like I did post high school. But I kind of senior year, for some reason, I decided nursing was the path. But I quickly learned, go back to the roots of math and computer science.
Excellent. Well, we already have some questions that are coming in the
Yeah.
chat. So maybe this, even though this will kind of take us out a little bit of the order, but again, just to get the conversation started, because again, this is all about AI in the classroom, and of course, navigating the classroom
Yes.
now with so many AI tools. So the question that we have here from Nassim, it says, I'm interested to know about prompt engineering for optimize you for or to optimize using AI tools, especially Chat GPT. And of course, the term prompt engineering also is just very, very new, that even in December, people were already talking about prompt engineers. So talk about seeing jobs created that didn't exist yet. So William, do you have any kind of just anything to add as far as prompt engineering and maybe the experience that you've had in either reading about it, seeing this, new job come about, and maybe some of the talks that maybe you have within your circles? What are your thoughts on prompt engineering?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually a big conversation starter that one of the schools I'm working with this a teacher, asked me like, should we be teaching students how to create good prompts? And it's a very valid statement, just because the way you ask an AI the question is a big deal on what kind of response it gives back to you. But the biggest thing is people are gonna learn by doing. They're gonna learn by having experience with ChatGPT, asking it all sorts of questions, and the better the answers they get back, the more likely they are to ask a question again like that. So it's really all about experience, getting your hands on with this new AI and learning, how to create good prompts and how to get good responses from these. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know we had a slight little technical difficulty there, but no, you're absolutely right. One of the things that I have learned is the better you are with your input, the better you with your output will be. And so again, that's something that is a great resource and a great tool. And not only that, but a teaching experience for our teachers within our classrooms. As we know, this is something that um, is definitely going to be, I consider, the future of work. And as you know, even a lot of companies having these job postings now, and so many people that are out there creating so many different prompts, and they've got scripts, they've got Notion, they've got Notion pages, they've They've got all of these pages where you can go and get some resources to get you some amazing outputs. And so I completely agree. As far as your experience now going into um, the school districts, like you mentioned, you're working with several school districts and several schools. I want to ask you a little bit about what the first impression that you get from teachers is when you go in and talk to them about AI, and of course the
Yeah.
AI in the classroom. What are their thoughts? What are their reactions?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I really explained to them what artificial intelligence is, and then I really dive deep into ChatGPT and what it can do. And the initial response is, some fear, like, oh my, like this is crazy that the students have access to all this kind of stuff. But then I go into showing them how they can use it to their advantage and improve their curriculum and things like that. And then, it's like, wow, I didn't realize, I can use this to my benefit and use this as a tool to help me as a teacher. So it kind of starts off as fear, and then the response comes more into like, wow, this is actually really cool and can be used as a tool to help me in my life.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I see that on the teacher side, on that aspect. I can definitely see how a tool like this, if I was in the classroom and when I was in the classroom, if I would have had this tool, this could have definitely saved me so much time in not necessarily creating the lesson, but either enhancing the lesson or also being able to maybe create just some additional lessons for maybe students that may need additional supports. As you know, sometimes
Yeah.
that is so time consuming. And for teachers, we know that time is precious and valuable. So a tool like Chat GPT, and now with the new iteration of Chat GPT for just the amazing things that it can do for a lesson is definitely great. The
Yeah.
time for prep for teachers is something that is wonderful. My question to you is, and again, this is for me coming on from the other side. Like I said, I'm always kind of in the middle. I'm one of those educators that's in the middle, that I definitely see the positive side of it, but then I also kind of
Yeah.
see, speak a little bit on the other side that a lot of people may not talk too much about, which is that data privacy side. What's
Yeah.
going on with the data, obviously the age restrictions. So for the work that you're doing, are you seeing mainly the teachers are the ones that are the consumers or the users of Chat GPT, or are you actually seeing some teachers that are allowing students to use this within the classroom?
Yeah. So mainly what I'm doing is just directly with the teacher, how they can use it to, tweak questions to be more AI resistant and have more critical thinking in them, how to tweak lesson plans to be more AI resistant. And so kids are actually learning more in school than they are on take home assignments because, kids always, learn from doing. And when they go home and now have these AI tools like ChatGPT to do it for them, the learning while doing aspect is kind of going out the window. So it's more going into, making curriculum that's more AI resistant. So kids are still having that learning experience through critical thinking.
And that's something that's very interesting that you say, because I think that for a lot of teachers, the very beginning was like, great, like there goes our job. What am I going to do now? And oftentimes with innovation and new things, there's always that onset fear at the very beginning, the unknown, and then you just kind of learn how to navigate. And thanks to somebody like yourself that is able to go out there and just kind of put teachers at ease, but then at the same time showing them the magic that can happen and can occur, is definitely something that is well needed. And I'm sure that it's well received because of that time aspect and just being able to change the lesson. Like you said, still building those critical thinking skills. Because I mean, one thing that I have seen is even with Chat GPT, really it's a fancy Google search, in the sense that, if a student, and I think for a lot of teachers, they know their students, they know their writing styles, they know what kind of output you normally get. And so for a student, like you said, that may want to go home and just say, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and put the prompt in Chat GPT, usually the answer is going to be like the top three hits in Google. kind of put
Yeah.
together, as that's what's going to happen. And there isn't much of, their voice in it. There
Yeah.
isn't still a lot of thinking because you're just asking them to produce. But I love your spin on it, what you're doing in helping them create assignments that are more AI resistant, where the students will still have to use their critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
collaboration skills. They're going to have to communicate. They're going to have to curate. They're going to have to cite. And most importantly, that citation portion of it is being able to find, sources that are reliable, not just depend on
Yeah.
what the output is and just say, okay, I'm going to turn in my paper. Because
Yeah.
again, what is it that the teacher's actually measuring? Are they measuring just how to either just cite sources, or are they building some kind of stamina? So I think that maybe this also is going to push teachers to go in different directions and enhance the lessons, kind of like you're helping them do. So kind of maybe walk us through a little bit about, I know you've talked to us a little bit about what you already do, but maybe as far as how you begin the presentation,
Yeah.
how do you introduce the teachers to the chat GPT and of course, enhancing their assignments?
Yeah, absolutely. So the program is like a 4-day almost training program. Day one being, how is it affecting education? Introducing them to it, showing them how it's being used by students, touching on how they can use it for themselves, and then really going to, okay, what is it threatening? What's the underlying concept that it's threatening, which is, the thinking before the pen hits the paper. It's not necessarily the act of writing that means anything. It's all about the thinking before the pen hits the paper. And then I asked them for ideas for themselves, what they think that could help them as far as integrating AI into the classroom or creating more AI resistant curriculum. And then that just gets the ball rolling. And then as far as going into day two, that's all about structuring questions that are more AI resistant and structuring assignments that are more AI resistant. And then day three goes more into structuring, how in-class activities are more AI resistant and how to get kids to, build that critical thinking skill that can withstand technology's advancements in school rather than what it used to be doing on homework assignments. And then day four is, how can they use it for productivity in their teacher's life and in their everyday life. Just making, if they have less time focusing on making presentations, which I saw Canvas today released I saw it on your Twitter fonts where they released the presentations where you can ask it to make certain presentation at loads like that, which is going to make the teachers' lives way more efficient. And then they can more focus on, optimizing the lesson plan to set their kids up for future success in this more AI driven world.
And that's something that's great. Like I said, how fast this is moving. I mean, it is moving so fast that a lot of us can't even keep up. And more so as far as teachers within the classroom that still have to do their curriculum, but on top of this added layer of tech that's coming in. And just like you mentioned, the release from Canva, where it's now you have your Magic Designer, and it's very similar to the Microsoft Designer too, where you just type in,
Yeah.
okay, what is it that I need? I need slides for this. Now, what I like about it is number one, you're not starting from scratch. Now, for a teacher to already have something on those slides is something that is great. But at the same time, we need to make sure that, hey, let's go ahead and look through this, make sure that it aligns with our lessons and so on. But
Yeah.
again, now it's you're not starting from scratch, and now the editing part of it that aligns with your state standards and all of that definitely becomes so much easier. But not only
Yeah.
that, like you mentioned, you can take a deeper dive now because you're not stressing out on where to start. You don't have to even worry about formatting your slides anymore. Everything is already done for you, and now you just really sprinkle on that greatness into your slides. And then also even
Yeah.
for students as well, I believe that the creative or creativity component also as well can be easily heightened, where oftentimes it was just very transactional, like here's your assignment, okay, I turned it in, here's your grade, and that's it. But now it's like, all right guys, let's let's take a look at this assignment, but this is what I would love for you to create. And again, I think that that's something that can definitely enhance their learning in the classrooms.
Absolutely.
All right. So my next question to you is also as well, and let me see, we've got Mel. Hey, here we go. We've got Mel joining us. And let me see. Thanks for inviting a student. It's cool. Okay. So this is Mel. Mel is joining us from Colombia. So thank you so much, Mel, for
Nice.
joining us. I really appreciate you, all your support as well. So William, let's, again, going back to that piece on reconciling. My next question to you is, you know, how does your program, when you talk to teachers, address some of those ethical concerns as far
Yeah.
as AI and data privacy? Maybe tell us a little bit about that and your thoughts on it too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with all these discussions with educators, that is one of the main questions that come up is those ethical concerns, with the students. But it just, we have a plethora discussion on the topic, which, makes them aware of, what's going on. And I make sure that they're aware that AI systems need large amounts of data for them to even function efficiently. So making sure, they understand, this is fetching a lot of data. And then, just really making sure that they understand that it is happening. And then, having open communication with them and stakeholders, just to, define common goals and priorities in AI and education, and then hopefully eventually develop ethical guidelines and best practices in the space.
Yeah, and that's something that's very important. And I'm glad that you do share that with teachers, because I know oftentimes, at least from my experience, there's so many of us, we're so like little pockets of early adopters and innovators, and we want to be the first to try things out and kind of use it. But sometimes we don't read the fine print, and we don't read like, hey, as far as the age requirements, we may not read like, hey, it's, you can use it 13 years of age, however you still need that parental consent. So those are just some of the things that I like to kind of look at and just consider before using the tool. And sometimes, oftentimes I feel that that kind of falls by the wayside just because we want to be the first to use it and we want to introduce this, and we don't take those things into account. But it's good to kind of have those conversations. And I put out a little poll about 3 days ago, and it was viewed by many people, but not a lot of people answered the poll. But my question was, is those, to all my friends or educators that I know, I said, my question was, is for those of you that are using ChatGPT in the classroom, are you just using it with your students without parental consent?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And 63% said yes, they're using it without parental consent.
Yeah.
And the other 14% said like, no, they're not using it. And but I was surprised that not too many people answered it. I don't know if they were just scared or
Yeah,
or
bro.
something. But
Yeah.
it's a good question. Like, not a lot of people are having those conversations, because everybody's either wanting to just be the first to do something and say, hey, look at me, look at what I can do, and then we'll worry about the consequences later. So I like what you're doing as far as your approach to really, again, and you're definitely showing the advantages of this technology that I am all for. But then you're also talking about those the data privacy, ethical considerations and so on, so that way teachers make those educated decisions. But again, at the
Yeah.
same time, I think that, like yourself, once you give them all that data and information, teachers can definitely use this and really maximize the use in the classroom. So do you find that once you get into maybe that little bit of talk with the teachers, some teachers kind of become a little reluctant, or do you feel that they just exercise more caution but are still feeling comfortable using the AI in the classrooms?
Yeah, it's definitely, the way the conversation goes, but usually it's talking to them, it's more comfortable by the end of it, making sure that they know that although that these do require the AI does require a lot of data that most of it's aligned in a good way, but just making sure they understand that we do have to be aware that these ethical issues exist within AI, and have the conversations even with students in the right format eventually.
Excellent. Yeah. And then, of course, talking with students, I think that's the most important thing that you
Yeah,
mentioned there, too, also, as well. The good digital citizenship, good
yeah,
practice, how to use these tools, because, again, we know that they're here. We know that it's only going to get better, obviously, the technology. And we know that there's going to be a myriad of tools that are popping up. I mean, they're popping up daily, and everybody wants to use them. So it's definitely important that, as educators, we have that talk with our students. Proper digital citizenship, I think that will help out significantly. And then also, like you mentioned, even with something like Chat GPT, don't be putting in your personal information on there, or things of that sort. Use it for what it is, a research tool,
yeah,
something that's going to facilitate, maybe just a writer's block, or just to give you an idea, or generate something like that that's generic. I mean, we do that with Google, but definitely ChatGPT does it way better and a lot faster
yeah,
and more efficient, that's for sure. So yeah. So William, so going back just a little bit, because I know we jumped into this and the work that you're doing, but
yeah,
I don't think I really asked where the idea to do this came
yeah.
from, or what sparked it. So tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So it kind of just was the combination of my past, being a master's student in computer science, interning at a service co-op, knowing how teachers, might not be super aware of this tool, and I wanted to raise awareness. And also, my dad is on the school board at my hometown. I'm in southwestern Minnesota, and I asked him, like, do teachers need more awareness on this? And it's like, yeah, if you can find a way to actually get in front of them, so they're actually like know what's going on, and tell them what's going on coming from a student perspective, and be able to articulate the knowledge in a way that they can understand, and understand that this is here and it's here to stay, and it can be a huge tool for them, and it's going to be a huge tool for students, as they grow up, as they enter the workforce. You think of the 15-year-old that is going to be 25 entering the workforce. What he has as an AI tool, when he's 25, is going to be exponentially better than what we have now. So just really understanding that it's here to stay, and it's only going to keep getting better and better, and understanding that it's a tool that is going to be continued to be used in everyday life. So really just the whole idea came from raising awareness for teachers. And then the presentation idea came from my father. And then the training idea, I actually had a poll in the presentation that asked the teachers, how can we actually help you implement these ideas? And pretty much 90% of the answers was AI training, or more time to spend with AI, someone to help me understand how to use it. So that's where I kind of articulated the training from. And then I took the ideas from the presentation, the creating AI resistant questions, integrating AI into the classroom in an ethical way, or using AI to help make AI resistant curriculum in their classroom, and turning that into a kind of a 4-day training to really help them, walk them through how they can actually implement these ideas into their classroom.
Nice. That's excellent. Well, that's great that you had that opportunity, and obviously the vision to be able to do this at such an early stage. And of course, helping so many educators. So now my question to you is, because I know you are still you're a current master's student in computer science. So
Yeah.
I'm also curious because, when I started my semester for my doctoral studies in January, ChatGPT had come out, in December. So I was like, okay, so what are the profs going to say? What are their thoughts? And really, at least in my program, my prof was kind of really cool and just said, look, I know that this is out there, but if you submit something and I have a question on it, maybe I'll contact you and so on, and we can talk about it. And if something needs to be rewritten, it totally can. We know that many colleges were like, we're going to ban this, we're going to like fail everybody who's using this or cheating and so on. I want to ask, from your lens of being a current master's student, at your university. What stance did your university take on the matter, and has it tightened up more? Has it kind of loosened up? What has been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So surprisingly, there hasn't been a ton of discussion as far as in class, in college with ChatGPT. Um, but when ChatGPT 3 was released, the answers it gave were super shallow. Um, so I think that's kind of why, because when you get into more of the higher level courses, ChatGPT 3 wasn't very good at um, answering lots of those prompts accurately. It gave you very confident answers, but sometimes they weren't always accurate. But this ChatGPT 4 is coming out, and I've been using it. But when it really gets released to the public in full, I think that's going to completely change. And I really hope that they are able to take the stance that, completely terminating the arms race that's between education and anti-cheating technology, and making it more impossible to cheat by the way the curriculum is given, and really having those critical thinking questions. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. But as far as right now, my professors have talked about it because they use it themselves, but there's been no curriculum tweaks or messages from like the university itself about ChatGPT so far.
There you go. And I've seen and on LinkedIn, I think it's Ethan Malik, that professor, he's been putting out some great stuff, and he even included it in his syllabus, stating like, yeah, I want you to use this. However, you're going to cite where it is that you used it and why you used it. So,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
he saw it as a tool and said, I know that you're probably going to use it, but I want you to tell me why and how, and just give me a little explanation. And so I thought that that was great, because again, it's going to kind of force the student to, all right, if I'm going to use it, let me see, what am I using it for?
Yeah.
Give some explanation, but still the learning is taking place. I've heard other viewpoints too, as well, and in my mind too, I and maybe this is just because I've never been a fan of writing, and writing is just like, oh,
Yeah.
but I even questioned one of my profs, because he had posted something, and I said, do you think that this is going to be the end of the dissertation? Because to myself, is what exactly is the dissertation? I know there's research that goes behind it. It's going to measure, I guess, how well you do research and how well you do an experiment and those things, and
Yeah.
you put it down. But to me, I'm like, well, can't I just show you how much knowledge I can share with you via a capstone project, where I can show you either create a portfolio or create a learning artifact at the end, like a project or something. There'll still be some writing, but it's not going to
Yeah.
be 200 pages of dissertation where I'm going through coding data and coding interviews and things of that sort. So I know that there has been that school of thought of, what is it that the professor's actually measuring? Are they measuring stamina, like writing 20 pages
Yeah.
and citing sources, or are they actually measuring learning? Because you may not need 20 pages to show that learning took place.
Yeah.
So now there's a lot of questions that are up in the air, within the higher ed space. And I would assume that that would even trickle down into the K-12 space as far as writing, because usually as higher ed does, kind of K-12 adjusts to prepare them for that. So what are some thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Then going back a little bit to ChatGPT, most of my classes are math classes, and since it's text based, that's the reason why nothing has really been said anything about that. But you just want to repeat the last line of your last question for me?
Oh, well, my question is just like, what are your thoughts on, as far as the writing component, maybe in higher ed, as far
Yeah.
as you know, dissertations or 20-page papers,
Yeah.
because I can easily show you maybe in 5 pages, what learning took place rather than the 20. So is it grading stamina and citation, or
Yeah.
is it actually looking at the learning?
Yeah, and I've never been a writing person myself either. So, in my opinion, like, the whole act of, writing a 6-page report on a project that I'm doing, like in a real world example is in one of my master's classes right now, it's an artificial intelligence class, is I'm doing this project, but then I have to write a 12-page paper on it. I think that's just stamina because, doing the project itself and just showing that I actually did it is where the real learning took place. But so in my opinion, I agree with you in the statement that that's probably going to slowly go away, especially with all the AI tools going on right now. But I'm very much in agreement with you on that.
Yeah. And and again, that's just me, my personal opinion, just because
Yeah.
again, I'm not a fan of writing, and also because maybe it's just that fear that I'm gonna be going into dissertation soon. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a lot of writing.
Yeah.
I've actually asked, I was like, hey, can I just do a capstone or something instead of having to write? But I know the writing will get done, I know the study will get done, and I
Yeah.
know everything is great. But it's just again, like you mentioned, with so many tools coming out,
Yeah.
one has to question and say, hey, is this something that is going to continue, or due to the tools that are available, are different kind of learning artifacts going to be asked from or excuse me, are going to be asked for from students to show the learning? Because now, I mean, you've got like Runway ML that you can just create. Now their new Runway ML, for it's going to be text to video, and so anything you type you're going to be able to create. Like
Yeah.
we just saw today, Canva,
Yeah.
the magic design. Now I just type in what my presentation is going to be about, it's already going to give me my slides,
Yeah.
things of that sort. So I'm sure that within this next year, I think we're going to see a shift
Yeah.
in maybe even in that higher ed space because of the tools that are out there. And of course that trickles down to K-12. And one thing I did want to add, that I wanted to give a shout out to Lena Marie, who was on the show. I think a lot of the fear too is that now the AI is front facing, as opposed to it used to be on the back end in the K-12 space, where
Yeah.
the AI students get on a platform, it'll kind of give them a learning path, kind of guide them through the path so they can become successful. But now that AI is front facing, and that kind of caused some of this fear that thankfully, somebody like yourself saw, like, hey, you know what? Let me help here. Let me help the space out. Let me help people feel comfortable with AI. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
thankful for people like you, William, who are doing so many great things for our teachers and everybody that's out there also in the Twitter space, bringing just some knowledge and some peace to teachers, and being able to see how great this can be and how much better it will be in the future. So thank you so much. So William, as we get ready to wrap up, and we wrap up with our last three questions, but before we
Yeah.
do that, William, for all our audience members that are watching us live or that are going to catch this show on the replay, can you tell us how it is that they might be able to get a hold of you in case they
Yes.
would love to ask for some help in professional development?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a school district that is looking for help, if you go on to groovyeducation.com, that there's a scheduled meeting there. If you schedule a meeting, I'll walk you through, my process of the training, and show you what we can offer and the program and how it will benefit your school, and how we will actually walk your teachers through it and help them ethically do this for themselves and for their students. If you're looking just for an inquiry, you want to get a hold of me, you can go on my website, go to the contact me on the bottom of all the pages. There's a little form you can fill out, and you'll reach my email, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. You can also reach me on my Twitter as well. Shoot me a DM, and I'll be sure to respond to you.
Excellent. I've been sharing
Yeah.
your website, and I've been sharing your Twitter handle also. And of course, all of
Awesome.
that will be on the show notes. But William, thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing all this wonderful insight. But before we go, this is one of my favorite segments of the show here, where we end with the last three questions. So, William, saying, of course, it's a little different because you are an educator, again, because you're out there educating
Yeah.
teachers, but that wasn't your traditional route. But my question
Yeah.
to you is, normally I ask, what is your current edu kryptonite? But now what I want to ask is, what is your current AI kryptonite?
Yeah. So like what it-
Remember,
what do you
kryptonite
mean
is
particularly
well.
by kryptonite?
Oh, yeah, kryptonite. So Superman, what made him weak was kryptonite. So that was
Okay.
like
Yeah.
kind of like what made him like, I guess, drain his power, per se.
Yes.
So in the current state of AI, what is
Yes.
your AI kryptonite? What is it that you either see or hear as far as a practice, or something that just makes you like, why?
Yes, it is definitely kind of the lack of critical thinking skills that students are facing right now. Since because all education is not adapted to these times of AI, kids are missing out on years, or not necessarily years, but they're missing out right now on that critical thinking skill set. So you see kids that are just merely asking AI and using it more of a crutch instead of a tool. They're really missing out on that critical thinking aspect, and it might set them back as far as when they get to the real workforce. We have all this information at our hands, and the things can do calculations so fast now. So the students that are able to actually use AI as tools, and take all this information that we can get so fast, and take all the calculations that we can do so fast with online tools, and actually apply them in meaningful ways. With that critical thinking skill set, they're going to be so much farther ahead of a student that merely was using AI as a crutch and never really learned how to take what AI gave it and use it in a meaningful way.
All right, great answer. Thank you so much. Very insightful. A lot of good stuff there, William. All right, question number 2, William, is if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Hmm. I would say probably let's use AI as tools.
All
Yeah.
right. There you go. And I love what you said that, or the way that you said that, because AI is a tool. So, I
Yes.
mean, again, and we know that for several of our tasks, we have to pick the right tool for the right time. So, again, sometimes we always hear the phrase in education is like, don't just use the tech for tech's sake. The tech is a tool to help you either enhance the learning, augment the learning, or substitute a portion of the learning, or redefine the learning. So again, I love what you said there, because that's the way that I'm taking it, is like you can definitely
Yes.
use AI for all of those things. So yeah, definitely. All right, William, the last question. Let's say that this was the Groovy AI podcast.
Yes.
Maybe that might be coming up in the future. I don't know, William. The Groovy AI podcast, and I was your guest. What would
Yes.
be one question you'd like to ask me?
Absolutely. So if I was the host, and I was having you on, I'd probably ask you, in what ways can we best teach these these teachers and these students about that the data laws with AI, and all that ethical concerns as far as with data privacy and algorithmic bias.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question, because that's something that, of course, I've been sharing a lot of and doing a lot of my research on that
Yeah.
and it started again with my doctoral study, my paper, and then it just kind of been diving in deeper. But really, I think what you're doing is great, which is really just giving that information, being open and honest, and saying, look, here we have a wonderful tool that can do so much good for you as a teacher, to be able to save you time, to enhance your learning, to do all of these things, and again, provide those AI resistant prompts and so on. However, I do want to share with you that there is this other side. There's the
Yeah.
side that you may not hear too much about, that can sound a little scary, because it can be. However, by talking to them about digital citizenship, and then obviously talking to students about digital citizenship and their footprint and things of that sort, in a way that I mean, for a lot of our teachers and a lot of our students already do lessons within the school year on that, is just really reinforce it now with AI tools, just being very cautious, learning, obviously now we have to learn a little bit more about sources, curating information, also deep fakes, because man,
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff
That's
on
big.
Midjourney. now on the new version of Midjourney that just came out,
Yeah.
just I'm like, is this real or is this
Yeah.
not real?
Yeah. It'll be
So
interesting.
yeah, so it's really just being open and having those conversations, not not in an off-putting way where you're really going to scare the teacher to not use the tools, but just really just to keep them informed, because I'm a believer that there is more good that is going to come from the tools than it is, than there is the bad side of it in education. However, that we always have some bad characters that are always wanting to do some bad things with those, but that goes with anything in tech. So really just making sure that all your stakeholders are informed, everybody is kept up to date on any
Yeah.
changes, any concerns as far as age restrictions, and of course just being very cautious with the data that is shared, with these prompts or in these programs. But again, just keeping it simple and just making sure that we reconcile those two worlds, and again, to the benefit of the teacher and to the benefit of the student as well. So that would be my answer for that too. All right, William. Well, William, it has been an honor and a pleasure, and I
Yes.
really want to thank you for reaching out to me on Twitter and just tagging me on that post. It was great to have met up with you, the last couple of days, and now it's like, hey, you're on the show, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful again for what you're doing, what you shared, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm really excited about what is ahead for you because of the great work that you're doing and how you keep up to date with all the tech that is out there.
Yeah.
So maybe within 6 months or so, maybe I would love to have you back just to see
Absolutely.
how things have changed, how have they grown,
Yeah.
or just to see things from your perspective too as well. I'd definitely appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much for having me on. I was just somebody that tagged you on Twitter, and then we hopped on a call and we discussed all these issues together. And I really appreciate and thank you for everything that you have shared with me.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. So, for all our friends that joined us today, thank you, Mel. Thank you, everybody. Those of you that are going to be catching this on the replay, thank you as always for making My EdTech Life what it is today. As you know, our mission is to connect educators and creators one show at a time. So please make sure that you visit our website at myedtech.life, myedtech.life, where you can check out this amazing episode and the other 185 amazing episodes with educators and creators that you can definitely learn something from. You can add it and sprinkle it on to what you are already doing great. Please make sure that you visit us on all socials. Make sure that you follow us, that you like, you share, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would definitely appreciate that. And also, if you'd like to support our show, please make sure you stop by our merch store where you can get yourself a cap, some sweaters, some My EdTech Life merch. And as you know, all of that goes back to this show because we want to continue to do the best for you each and every time. So we really appreciate it so much. And my friends, as always, don't forget, until next time, stay techie.